So hello once again, my name is Ben. I am the Senior Coding Specialist here at Learning People. Have been for 9 years and 9 years now. And the purpose of this webinar is to talk with a couple of our existing students who have gone through our coding courses and gotten jobs at the end of it. So that's like the star feature is for us to talk with them a little bit about their experiences and kind of go from there. We're also going to talk a little bit with Robin in our career services team, and she'll talk you through a little bit about our career services, exactly how those different aspects work, because ultimately that's the most important part at the end of the day is those of you here are looking to get a job at the end of it. So she'll talk you through a little bit about how that works. And now before we do, I would like to tell you just a little bit about why coding, to answer a couple of really common questions like why coding and why now. And I can answer those things fairly simply. Why coding, I think, is fairly obvious. Anybody that's done 5 minutes of research can see that careers in coding right now will pretty much tick the boxes of whatever anybody is looking for their future and their career. You can work from home, you can be your own boss, start your own business, work part-time, travel. The incomes are very good. I don't know any coders that are unhappy with future earning potential. So for lots of reasons, it tends to tick a lot of boxes. But the more interesting question, I think, is why now? And look, coding's always been a good thing to get into. You know, you could have said that 10 years ago, but in particularly now, we see demand for coders increase every year, but none more so than in the last 2 years. We've seen a massive leap in demand for coders. And we think that a large number of the reasons for this really revolve around obviously COVID, but in particular the way that businesses are scrambling to improve their online presence, their internal technologies, to continue trading and stay in business basically. And we need coders for all of these kinds of services. So believe me, I could waffle on about that all day and have to be stopped sometimes. But that's enough from me for now. I'll hand over to Robin to tell you a little bit about career services, and then we'll talk with Mike and Josh.
Thanks, Ben. So yeah, I am one of the career services consultants. I'm based in our Dublin office. A bit about me, my background, I have 7 years experience in the employability sector, and I was recruiting for software developers in Dublin before I joined Learning People in August of last year. And so what we do as career services is our main aim is to support students to help you guys become job ready, to navigate the job market and navigate that career change. So we've designed a 3-phase process that we guide students through with the aim of facilitating that career change. So phase 1, it's all about building your professional brand, right? Putting those foundations together of you becoming a credible software development candidate. And the biggest thing that you'll learn from this process is understanding how to present yourself in line with the market's requirements of your desired role. So this can be the key difference of you getting noticed or not, which we know sometimes is half the battle. So we completely support you through that process, and we give you guides on how to research the industry to understand how you want to present yourself in line with your desired role, how to build up your CV and your LinkedIn profile and your cover letter. Once that's achieved, we do consultations to get you to the right quality, and we'll go back and forth until that industry standard is reached on your CV and LinkedIn. Once that's achieved, we'll then progress you to phase 2. And phase 2 is where we focus on networking, job applications, and your approach to the job market. And this is what a lot of people are missing when they go about job searching themselves, right? Because we know that it's a reflex to go straight online and apply for jobs online, right? And people tend to tell themselves, I need to apply for as many jobs as possible to increase my chances of landing that role. And it's an unfortunate misconception, because these job boards, some of you may be aware of this, some of this might come as a shock, but they only represent 30% of available opportunities. So that tells us if you're just applying for jobs online, it's almost guaranteed to take you longer to find a job. So at phase 2, we work with students to help you guys to structure a targeted plan where you're balancing multiple methods of application. And that is what gives you that probability in a much more likelihood manner of achieving that positive result. And it's also about engaging with key players in the industry to expand your knowledge of the development industry, and also to be presenting that brand that you've built for yourself. Phase 3 is all about interviews. So we do very intensive interview prep calls. We can do mock interviews. with my recruitment and coding experience, I know exactly the kind of questions that you're coming up against, the type of technical challenges, what is going to be expected from them. So you do have an extra kind of layer of industry support in that regard. And we'll support you through the job offer process as well. Essentially, you get a tailored and impartial service. So whether you're looking to be a front-end developer, back-end developer, or full-stack developer, you will have the support that is tailored to you to be able to make yourself stand out in that vertical and within the industry. And we'll support you all the way up until you start your new role. That's kind of us in a nutshell, I think.
That's perfect. Thank you for that, Robin. So I suspect we'll hear a little bit more from Robin later with some other questions that we might have that hopefully you can help me to answer. So over to the main part, and this is always the part that I love, is to hear from our students and what they're up to now, what their experiences has been like with us, because there's no truer kind of measure of how we're doing as a school, but to hear from our students and how they're doing. So if I can start with Mike, I want to ask you both the same question, but if I can start with Mike, when did you first get in touch with us? Because I think Stuart was telling me that there's a little bit of an anniversary there.
Yes, actually, it's been 1 year exactly to this day that I filled out the form.
Is that today? Like literally today?
It's literally today, yeah, which is one of the reasons when Robin contacted me and she said that it's on the 11th of November, I felt that I have to do it. It's like my anniversary with learning people. So I filled out the website, the form, and requested a callback on the 11th. And I think the day after, Stuart got in touch with me, and he was very nice. He was very polite. And we actually spent about 30 to 40 minutes on the phone. Yeah, that's Stuart for you.
Yeah, he does tend to waffle on a little, just like me.
So we spent a lot of time on the phone, which was very nice. We a lot of times we talked about what I do at this stage, and what my goals are, and where do I see myself in after the course. But a lot of times we just talked like about other things, like what do I like to eat, what movies do I like to watch, like things like this. So it was very interesting, and in comparison with other callbacks that I had, I felt that Stuart paid a little bit more attention to engage with me and know me a little bit better. Hence, all of these kind of more personal, let's say, questions. So yeah, I was really excited, and I told him that I need a little bit of time to think about it.
Sure. Understandably, yeah.
And after I spent a little bit of time doing my research, which obviously I advise everyone to do the research before they make any decision.
Of course.
And then after I did my research, I decided that I should give Stuart a call back and that it was time to enroll.
And 12 months later, here you are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really great. And Josh, how long has it been for you since you first made contact with us?
So I first made contact in February, I think.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit shorter with regards to how long I've been coding for. But yeah, I remember kind of early Feb, kind of making the decision that I wanted to move into a career like this, doing some research kind of before I made any contact with you guys. Could see really quite early on that you were kind of head and shoulders above everyone else with regards to kind of what you offer from a service and what you get at the end of it, which is like university accredited diploma and things like that. So and then I kind of reached out, and quite quickly, I think a gentleman called Mike called me back, who was one of your careers consultants at the time, and was really helpful in kind of talking to me about kind of what my goals were. He was quite honest with me about kind of how hard the course was and what to expect and kind of what previous students had done in order to complete it and what times they had completed it in, and was really quite knowledgeable about the whole process. And then that was kind of a no-brainer for me at that point. I was kind of sold from then onwards, and then kind of the rest is history.
Great. And what was your career before this, Josh?
So I've worked kind of a multitude of different roles, but all within kind of contact center environments. So I was a incident manager within a contact center. I've done operations management. I've worked on the phones, just various kind of contact center roles, really. Okay.
And Mike, what kind of things had you done before learning to code?
Yeah, so before I enrolled at the course, I was working at a music studio in central London. I've worked there for about 7 years, which by the end of it, I kind of felt the need, although I was really happy with my profession. And I am one of those people that actually didn't change career because I was fed up with what I was doing. I actually really enjoyed what I was doing, and it's a very interesting profession. But obviously, the industry itself, especially with COVID, has become very difficult, and it was time for me to consider a plan B. And because of my job, actually, while working with some video game companies, because I was doing sound and music for some mobile games, I started working with C#, like I've said to Robin before, and I kind of slowly fell in love with the process. So
great.
This kind of led me to choose coding as my plan B.
So through COVID, though, like lots of people have come to the realization that maybe their existing career isn't as safe as they thought, or maybe they just wanted to do something anyways, and this maybe gave them the nudge. But of all of the things that you could have done, why do you think you chose coding?
Sorry, is this a question to me or just?
Yeah, for you. Well, both really, but I'll one at a time.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, as I've said before, I was coding even before. To some extent, I was coding even before I contacted you, and I really fell in love with the process. And even when I was working, doing sound design and music, I still felt there was a part of me that wasn't like exactly satisfied. I wasn't ticking all those boxes.
Right.
And every time I was coding, I just really felt that it's what I want to do, and I really like doing it. But at first, because I was really in my comfort zone in my previous job, so it didn't really hit me that I can change career. And I know this is a fact for many people, especially.
Yeah. I
was working for 7 years in the music studio, and a lot of times, I was on autopilot. So when you know what you're doing, and you're doing it well, you just go on autopilot, and then after that, there is no room for growth, and there's not a lot of things that you can do after that. So on the one hand, it felt comfortable and nice because I know what I'm doing, and I think that's why I stayed there for so long. But at the same time, when I was coding, I just felt this passion that there is a lot to learn, and that really is drive me to apply.
Great. And Josh, why do you think you chose coding?
A little bit of kind of the same as Mike, really. Like there's always been an interest in tech for me. I've always been interested in kind of engineering and technology. And I remember when I got my first Game Boy, the first thing I did was I pulled it apart to see how the insides work as opposed to actually using it. So I've always been intrigued at how things work, and I've always been interested in how things work. But I always just worked. I never went to university. I never did anything like that. So I always kind of thought it was a little bit out of my reach. So I just never then kind of decided to take the plunge and learn it, really. But what the kind of pandemic made me realize was that I've actually got enough time to digest this stuff, to learn it, and there's no time is the right time to start doing it, and actually there's no right age to start doing it. You can do it at any point in time. So that just gave me the kind of willpower and the urge just to take the leap, really.
Great. And would you say, Josh, that you had any concerns about taking that leap, or do you think you just kind of made up your mind, this is what I'm doing?
No, I always like to kind of think things through before I kind of make a decision. And when you do, you can sometimes get yourself in a bit of a rut, can't you? And think, actually, no, this, you can err on the side of caution and go, actually, this is maybe too much out of my reach. So yeah, I did. I thought about it, and I did think, do I have enough time? Obviously, you get this preconception that you need to that coders sit there all day, every day coding, and it's just that it's their be all and end all. And actually, can I be that type of person? Do I have the mentality to be that type of person, and things like that? When actually it's probably furthest from the truth. Like, you actually need time to digest it. I tend to find that coding in smaller blocks, I can kind of manifest it a bit better, and it kind of just starts to hit me over time. I don't really learn it straight away. I'll be laying in bed and I'll think, that's how that worked today. So actually, I tend to find now that coding in shorter blocks is better for me. And then what I did prior to kind of joining the course was I kind of sat down and said, how much time do I have each day? How much time can I put aside to coding? And then if that works out to be enough time to complete the course, then I'll do it. And I worked out that I had about 2.5, 3 hours of free time a day that I could commit to it. And that was more than enough. I think it's about 10 to 15 hours, isn't it, a week that you need to be able to complete it within the year. And I thought, well, actually, it's a no-brainer then. So that was my real main concern, is do I have the time to do it? And actually, am I smart enough to do it? And actually, what you tend to realize when you start to look a little bit more into it is that it's no different to any other job, really. Like,
in your case, you've done it in, is it 8 months you've done it in?
Yeah.
So that's really impressive. Yeah, you must have been putting in near 15, 20 hours a week.
Yeah, I actually realized that I had a lot more time available to me than I had. So I was about 4 to 4.5 hours in a day. And it was like that was a real sweet spot for me, that I was learning enough and I wasn't overdoing myself type thing. So it tended to work out really well.
Perfect. And Mike, you're now working in a coding role, I understand.
Yeah, that's correct.
What kind of role is that?
So I'm working as an associate developer at Sky here in London.
Perfect. And how would you say career services helped with that?
Yeah, so after I submitted my MS2, I called Stuart immediately and I told him, all right, I think I'm ready to find a job. And then Stuart introduced me to Robin. So we exchanged some emails with Robin, and obviously, as you mentioned before, there is a 3-phase process where we first look at my LinkedIn and my CV and my cover letter, and she helped me tailor them and to the specific job, and also kind of adjust them to be a little bit more job ready. And after I adjusted my CV and cover letter and LinkedIn with her help, I applied for the role. And one thing which everyone from the learning people have been telling me from day one is the importance of LinkedIn, and that you shouldn't really apply and forget it. You'll never get a callback if you apply and forget it.
Yep.
At least in my experience, obviously. But what I've done is I got in touch with the recruiters at Sky through LinkedIn, and I remember I just asked them a few questions.
And was this off of Robin's advice?
Yes.
So would you say she was helpful? Reasonable?
Yeah, definitely. Both Robin and Stuart have been very helpful throughout the process, and their advices were spot on. And it's really helped me land that interview.
Great.
And I remember when I got a call for the interview, I immediately contacted Robin and I asked her if we can do, because at the time I was on phase 2, at the beginning of phase 2, and I told her, can we fast forward to phase 3, because I really need it right now. So we haven't actually done phase 2. So we've started
skipped a bit.
Yeah, but I'm completely fine with that.
Good. Great.
But yeah,
I'm also completely fine with it. That's the best reason to skip phase 2.
Like, I got a job, so I skipped some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, she sent me some information of what kind of potential questions that you might see in an interview. In my experience, most of the questions that I have were kind of behavioral questions. I remember I had 2 interviews. The first one was a little bit more relaxed. And then after the interview, I contacted Robin and I told her about my experience. And then we arranged to talk because I knew the second interview was going to be a behavioral interview. So I contacted her to kind of practice a little bit some questions. Okay. So I had a look at the PDFs that she sent me. I practiced as much as I could. Obviously, I was on holiday at the time, so it wasn't as easy as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But I did spend a lot of time going through all the questions that she sent me, and I've watched some webinars from the learning people. And then she called me, and we just did some mock interview, basically. Right. And I think I did well in the mock-up interview.
I mean, reasonably.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
But yeah, after that, it just felt, I felt better, because obviously when you're rehearsing and you just answer the question in your head is not the same when you're doing it in the interview, by the way. It's
yeah, of course.
It's a lot simpler where you just look at the question and then you just answer in your head. But when someone asks you the question, it's much tougher. So I would say, even if you don't have Robin to help you, just have someone that you know to kind of ask you this question and then actually reply to them.
Yeah.
That
really
was
great.
So that was really helpful. And yeah, I've had the second interview. It went very well, and they offered me the job.
Success.
And can I just interject just a little bit that people might be interested to know? Mike got the offer just about a month after we first started speaking, which is really, incredible. Really worth commending, most definitely. Because it's not the average, not everybody will get a job in a month, but you're living proof that it can be done if you follow the process to the letter.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well done.
That's amazing. And Josh, I understand you've got a new role now as well. What is it that you're doing?
Yes, so I work for a technology company in Southampton called Dynamon. So they use AI to help businesses make smarter fleet procurement decisions. So if they want to move their fleets to electric, we have a kind of suite of tools they can use to kind of work out how cost effective it will be, kind of, and what things to consider when doing that.
Perfect. And was the process for you getting that job similar to Mike's experience there? You spoke with career services and kind of went through the phases?
Yeah, so mine moved really fast. Like, I think this is another like key selling point for the learning people, is that career services is like amazing. Like that, like all three phases are really good. Like, there's so much information and so much that I took from it that I just wasn't considering at all, and would not have considered if I didn't go through career services. Like, Marisha was great with me. Like, she would jump on a call and talk me through kind of things that I would need to consider, like things I needed to update. Like, she reviewed my CV and things like that, and my LinkedIn profile, and would send me like really constructive criticism and like, this is the stuff you need to consider, like, and kept me really accountable to like making sure that stuff was updated, so that I was in the best position to kind of move into the next phase. And then I for me, it was kind of, I think what Robin was talking about near the beginning, is that like, I didn't want to just apply for loads of roles, because you would just become another small fish in a big pond. Then for me, it was, I wanted to find roles that kind of suited my values, so that I knew that if I got an interview, I could quite eloquently talk about why I'm a good fit for them. And then because of that, I found Dynamon, which work kind of in sustainability, and it's something that's quite important to me as well.
Oh, great!
The whole thing was just accelerated. Like, I got a call from the CEO, and it was about 10 minutes conversation. The next day, they called me and said, "Can you interview with us?" Interviewed with their head of software and him again, and then a quick technical test. And then before I knew it, it was a couple of days later, and they were offering me the job. So I think
that's incredible.
my biggest advice would be like, don't just throw application forms around willy-nilly, like, because you can't then shine in them. You need to really, really be passionate about what it is you're trying to sell. And if you can do that, you'll shine above the rest.
That's amazing. That's such a good experience. Okay. And what would and this will be to both of you, but to start with Josh, what would your advice be to anybody else? Obviously, you've changed your career, and others are in a similar position to where you were back in February. What would you say to those people if they're listening now?
I would say, like, if you're kind of apprehensive, like, just think back about other times that you've done things that are really complex. It's no different. Like I never thought I'd be able to learn to drive, and I did. And using them, kind of thinking back on the things where I've done stuff that maybe I probably thought I couldn't have done, gave me that little bit of motivation just to kind of move one step ahead and just kind of put one foot in front of the other. And also just hold yourself accountable to doing an hour a day is enough.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you'll make small incremental progress, and then you could say to yourself, well, actually, by next year, I could be in a new role doing something that I'm passionate about. So just hold yourself accountable to doing a little bit. Don't hold yourself accountable to doing loads, and then that should be enough to make that small incremental progress.
That's great advice. And Mike, would you add anything to that advice to anybody looking to achieve the same?
Yeah, I think as just mentioned, there is a notion that coding is very difficult, and to some extent it is. But if you put in the effort and the hours, I believe everyone can do it. And A lot of people think that even after a course or even after spending a lot of hours, writing code, you will feel ready. You never feel ready. I mean, right now I've started the job and I've been working for a month now, and I don't feel ready at all. There is
it's a thing with coders, isn't it? And in some other kind of tech-based roles, but you never quite feel like you might get to like 90-something% where you feel like you know what you're doing, but you're never quite 100%.
Exactly. So don't let that push you away. Trust me, like I know senior developers who don't feel ready and they feel like they're fraud, but trust me, like everyone can do it, and you just need to persevere and put in the hours. It's a profession where you have to put in the hours to get results.
Yeah, it's called Imposter Syndrome, and lots of people have it in lots of industries, but it's very common in the coding world, because coding is something that is very technical. You can't possibly know it all at any one time, and even if you try, by the time you've learned it all, there'll be new stuff. So it's one of those things where you know enough to do what you need to do, and you've just got to have faith in yourself and your own abilities.
Exactly, and you learn in the job. Like I've noticed, I've been coding in the Code Institute for about a year now, but the things that I've learned in this past month are incredible. So you will only get better by doing it professionally.
What I've learned is that the VS Code debugger and Google are my best friends.
Yep, I hear that all the time from our students. It's that, throw Google at it, you'll probably find what you're looking for. But just through a little bit of research. And the thing is, coders have to be willing to learn new skills or learn a little something new to solve problems sometimes, and that's okay. That shouldn't scare you away. That should be something that you're just willing to do as part of your job. So Josh and Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And as always, we love hearing about our successful student journeys. So there's a few questions that have come in through email. So I'll answer these, but perhaps Robin can help as well. But Sophie has asked, can I start my career in code even though I've only just finished college? And I would say, yeah, absolutely. That's a really easy one to answer, because careers in coding, as Josh was saying earlier, you can start at any age. It really doesn't matter. Coding is something that you can learn relatively quickly. You can learn it from home. There's lots of jobs available. So sometimes students consider us to be an alternative to university. And by all means, get in touch and we can kind of talk you through the differences and how it might look and work for you, Sophie. But by all means, like I say, get in touch and we'll talk you through that. But yes, there's never a bad time to get started with a career in coding. Mark has said, are your coding courses recognized by employers? And that's a tricky one to answer, actually, that, Mark. And maybe Robin can help me with it. Yeah,
I can. Is no problem. So, like, for example, well, for one, right, university accredited, and the only university accredited bootcamp in Europe, right? But we shouldn't need to go any further than that, but I will go further than that, right? So one thing that I can tell you from my own experience when I was in recruitment before I even joined Learning People is that, Code Institute are based in Dublin, right? So I would have, come across them and come across their candidates quite a bit, and they have such a good reputation for bringing out really strong quality graduates that Code Institute have, historically supplied a whole team of graduates to Facebook and to Google in Dublin, right? And these are the type of organizations that don't just take anybody, right? We know that the walls are very high to get in. So I think that speaks very much to how recognized and how good the quality of the training is with Code Institute, especially.
Yeah, great. And I think the only thing that I would say is that the most important part, you get great qualifications, great sets of skills. Employers are going to love all of that stuff, but your portfolio is going to be the part that most employers are interested in, because that's just clear evidence of what you can do. And actually, we found that sometimes from other courses that maybe had exams that you would sit, actually what tends to happen is that they might end up just learning how to pass an exam. I honestly couldn't tell you how many times a week I talk with university graduates who have got skills that are years out of date, no portfolio to speak of. And if they do have one, they built a calculator. And my point is they've spent £30,000 on their education and 3 years of their life achieving it and didn't build anything. that blows my mind every time I think of that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, by the way. It's a great experience. But if you're looking for a career in coding, I'd say, honestly, there's probably better ways to do it these days.
The difference is if you're doing the computer science degree, you're doing a degree in theory. If you're doing the Code Institute Full Stack Developer Diploma, you're getting the practical working skills to be a coder. So it all depends on what you want. If you want to look at the theory, university suits better. If you want to be able to hit the ground running, as Ben is explaining there, this is a better option.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another from Tahir. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But is this a skill that I can learn and get a job with in my 50s? That's a really great question. We get this one all the time. Am I too old to code? And look, the simple answer is no. Many of our students are in their 50s. And actually, one of the things that we find is that some employers are happy to, more than happy to take on senior isn't the right word, more experienced people, I suppose. But actually on the other side of that, from the employment perspective, I find with a lot of our older students that in the later years of their career, they actually want the opportunity to maybe slow down a little, maybe just do some part-time work, do contract work, which, you can work half as many hours and still make a good income doing that, and then have time to pursue other interests or travel the world or whatever you might want to do with that stuff. So many of our students are in their 50s, and it's like I said earlier, there's never a bad time to learn to code. There's lots of jobs available. So get in touch and we can talk you through how it might look and work for you. And if you're worried about learning to code at your age, which is another question that we get sometimes, then we've got a coding assessment that we can get you set up on. It's really, really accurate at determining whether or not you specifically are suitable, are well suited to a career in coding. And the final question is, can I get a role with experience gained from the course on my own, or do I need to already have work experience? This is from Marlon. So I would say that, Robin, you could probably better answer that one, but he's basically saying, do I need experience?
Yeah, no, you don't need experience, right? And the reason why is you can draw from your previous experience in terms of the softer skills, right? So huge requirements in a career in coding is the obvious one: problem solving, communication skills, good attention to detail, the ability to work a methodical process, the ability to collaborate with others, right? You can draw those things from your previous experience in what we call transferable skills. And so you have soft skills and hard skills in terms of a role. So that's your soft skills covered from your previous industry. You actually are getting the experience in quotation marks, right, through your milestone projects. This is you developing your hard skills. It's the equivalent of being able to show this is my experience, because these are the projects that you've done in relation to your course. So you are going to have something tangible to approach the market with. And something I didn't mention is that we advise students, like Mike mentioned, right, after his second project, that was when we started career services. So it makes sense to wait until you've got something tangible that you have built and you've learned a bit, so you know where your skills are, you know how to present them, verbally and also in your projects. So don't feel like you're going to be thrown into the deep end here, make a coding CV, right? When you don't even know what you don't know, right? So we've a really methodical process outlined that is, geared towards your best success. So you don't need to worry about sort of being overwhelmed in that manner.
Perfect. Thank you, Robin. So I'm conscious of time. There are a few more questions, and apologies, we are going to have to cut it off. So thank you, everybody. Please do get in touch if you're even thinking about whether or not a career in coding is right for you. Talk with myself or any of our coding consultants here who can talk you through exactly how it might look and work for you specifically, and if it's right for you at all. And a big thank you to Mike and Josh again for taking the time. Well done, guys. You've done so well. You should be really, really proud of yourselves for what you've achieved. And we look forward to talking with you guys again in the future, hopefully. So goodbye, everybody, for today. Thank you again for taking the time, and hopefully we'll hear from some of you guys soon.